walks. Oh, okay. I'll start that again. Tasmania's 3 Cape Walks deliver spectacular coastlines, terrain ranging from easy to challenging, and lodges that rest and revive. We've got Jenny, Britt and Vanessa Mallard here tonight, who recently walked it. And Jenny's going to tell us about it all.
Thank you very much.
Please welcome Jenny.
Thank you. Thanks very much, Cheryl. This is firstly a bit of an acoustic test. Can everybody hear me? Yes, good. And delighted to see the captions up there on the screen. So great work. Thank you, Chris. So welcome. This is an introduction, as Cheryl has said, to the stunning 3 Capes walk. And we'll step through the different stages of the walk and give you some insights into what really has been a privilege to be on that track this year. I'd like to open up the floor to any questions or comments along the way rather than leave them towards the end, although of course you'd be very welcome if there are any questions coming at that point. And if you do have trouble hearing me, just let me know, please, and I'll try to project and make sure we are able to pick up the sound. And thanks to Chris for the audio-visual work. There's a lot that goes on behind the scenes to make these things happen. And it's a relief not to be having to manage that as well as speaking, I might say. I'm also delighted to see Vanessa here because for the things I skim over or perhaps might not get completely right, feel free to just add value there. So before I formally start, I would like to acknowledge country and to pay our respects to the traditional custodians of the lands on which we meet. They are particularly the Yalukit Willem clan, and they are one of the 6 Boonwurrung language clans of this area. Their particular territory stretched from the Werribee River across to what we would now know as Altona, Williamstown, cross over to Port Melbourne, St Kilda and Prahran, and the lands in and around those areas. In doing the research for tonight, I found out that High Street near Malvern Town Hall was a known meeting place and venue for staging corroborees, as was what we would now know as Chapel Street. So there are corroborees still happening, but probably not in the same way as they used to in ancient times. I think it's also fitting to acknowledge the traditional owners of Truanna or Tasmania. The Puyallup people in particular, as the traditional custodians of that land, have had enduring resilience and connection to country in extraordinary circumstances, particularly given the terrible history of the island and its treatment of the Indigenous peoples there. So let's start with some fast facts about the walk. But firstly, I'm going to check, are there any audience members who've done this walk? Yay, yay, Vanessa. And anybody at home? No?
It's not as a pet carry.
Not as a pet carry. Okay, good. Okay. So again, it'll be useful to have you as reference points along this way. So the overview here is that it's a 4-day walk, 3 nights, obviously, and you're staying in 3 lodges along the way. 48 kilometres. We undertook the walk through Tasmanian parks and used their lodges. There's also a commercial hiking company that operates in this park, which quite salubrious lodges apparently, that we could see vaguely in the distance from the shore. There are some camping sites, but they obviously need to be booked well in advance. And as Carol mentioned, it is a pack walk that we did. So this was my very first pack walk with obviously carrying all the food and a sleeping bag along the way. I think from memory, and I might have this wrong, but there's only 48 people allowed on the track at any one time. I read that somewhere, yeah. And we visited between the end of March and early April 2024. So this year. The elevation of the track is around 2,800 metres. It's rated a grade 3, which I think is moderate. All trails, interestingly, rated it as hard. I don't think that's quite accurate. And it is a very accessible walk, I think, for most people of moderate fitness. In fact, I think we saw some families on the walk as well, carrying huge tins of peaches and all sorts of things in their backpack. So good luck to them for having to carry that around. It's a relatively new track. Sorry, Julie.
Sorry,
Yeah, go. Yeah.
where did you start?
We'll get to that.
Oh,
Just,
yeah,
just,
no worries.
yeah, I'll go through day by day. So we'll have a little
Jenny, I'm having
intro.
a bit of difficulty getting more slides up. So
Oh,
that's why I'm
okay.
fiddling on the screen.
No, that's okay. That's fine. I'll just plow on. The track was built over 5 years, from 2011 to 2015, so relatively new. And it obviously is down on the Tasman Peninsula. We do have a map in this presentation, which with a bit of luck we might get to. The 3 capes that the walk is named after are Howie, Pillar and Raoul. And if people can visualise Tasmania and Hobart, it's on that Tasman Peninsula that's south of Hobart. And I do have a map for those that are in the room, which I can hand around, which might give you some visual reference points as well. Oh, there we are. Okay. The map is right at the end, Chris. Oh, don't worry, we can come to it if it's easier. I will, right now. Yep, okay. So day 1, we started with the boat cruise coming down from Port Arthur. We drove down from Richmond, which was about an hour's drive. We left the car in the long-term car park at Port Arthur, and the cruise itself hugs the coastline out, and you look out to Arthur's Peak and Crescent Bay. And at this point, you know, you really start to realise what an amazing coastline you're witnessing. So you see seals, great kelp gardens, towering cliffs, and seas that were starting to surge as we got towards more open ocean. So I was very grateful when we started to move back in to our drop-off point, which was Denman's Cove, which is basically opposite Port Arthur. Geologically, if anyone's interested in this, and I am, you've got the cliff lines layered in siltstone, sandstone and conglomerate. And then you can see examples where magma has forced its way up through the vertical fissures and horizontally as well. This is on the way out. Yeah, yeah. So we alighted at Denman's Cove, which is here. And as you can see, boats there in the background, and they don't go right into shore. So you jump out, you roll your gear up and put your boots over. Yeah.
You get the boat starting.
The boat from
Hobart?
Port Arthur.
Oh, from
The
Port
boat
Arthur.
from
So,
Port Arthur. Yeah.
How long does that take to get there?
Oh, I don't know, an hour?
An hour? It takes you on a cruise.
Yeah,
Right.
Yeah.
Doesn't go straight.
Jenny, I'm going to go to the map.
And you
yeah, sure.
jump out.
Yeah.
The boat is you. Take your boots off,
Yeah.
you jump out and you start.
Oh, okay. So you can see Port Arthur here on the left of the screen, and you're going straight, virtually straight across, but the boat cruise goes around this coastline and back across up to Denman's Cove. It is a spectacular cruise, absolutely beautiful. And just such a fitting start to what is a great adventure, really. Okay, now go back one, Chris, if I wouldn't mind. When I spoke about surging seas, you can kind of see what I mean.
That's in the
No, this is out in the open ocean on the way over, but we're very, we just sort of peeked out into the open ocean, saw the albatross coming up and down between the waves, and then skedaddled back in closer to the coastline before we moved over to Denman's Cove. Thanks, Chris. I'll go back to the second slide now.
And.
Yeah.
How much weight did you?
Very good question. So I managed to get my backpack down to about 13 kilos with water. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
This is much bigger. Volume wise.
I think it was about, I can't remember, 10, 12 K?
Yeah.
12? Yeah. Yeah, it was more than 10. I can't remember now. Maybe 12.
Yeah.
12, 14.
Yeah. And we're hearing around the table, for those that can't hear, the ranges of packs weight was around 11 to 13 kilos or thereabouts for most people who've done the walk with dehydrated food. Yep, not tins of peaches.
When did you do this?
End of March into early April this year. Yeah, this year. Yep. That's great. Very recent. So here are my fellow trekkers. So David Barry, Vanessa, of course, Vanessa's brother Trevor, our resident cardiologist, didn't need his help at all. Very strong hikers, those three, I've got to say. Big legs, and they strode out. It was fabulous, just great. So we travelled as a group of 4, which was really handy for the cabins, and we'll get to the lodges in a minute. But so we shared a cabin with kind of bunk beds, and apparently there were some snorers there, but I don't know anything about that at all. All right, next one. Let's see how we go. So that's at Denman's Cove. This is the first day in of the walk. It's a really gentle introduction. So it's only 4K. There's a bit of boardwalk, gravel track. And then you see this beautiful lodge called Surveyor's Cabin. It's 120 metres above sea level on a button grass plain. And you have views to the south to Cape, southwest actually, to Cape Rail and the setting sun. But you can see here how the location and the design actually sort of snuggles into the landscape.
Yeah.
It doesn't dominate, and it has some very, very functional facilities, which we'll get a look at shortly. So with a bit of luck, Chris might, oh, thank you. So here you see the beautiful decking. Thanks, Ben. And they had yoga mats and those, you know, roller things for people who wanted to sort of stretch out a bit. And those views back across here to the southwest, absolutely sensational. Right, okay. There was also wine included in our little group. Of course, I know. And this is the world's skinniest bottle of wine. I couldn't believe it held 750 mils. Yeah, no, and we finished it off for the first time because you don't want to carry around all that weight, let's face it. Yeah, oh yeah. The next one here. This is what happens when you leave your backpack outside the cabin with a bag of macadamia nuts. This is a brush-tail possum. They grow on big down there for obvious reasons, very cold. We didn't see that possum again, nor did we see that bag of macadamia nuts. So I think he's still out there, probably flat on his back, just digesting all of that. But he wasn't in the least bit phased by us standing there.
He's probably going to talk.
Yeah. Right, okay, let's keep moving. Okay, so this is another pic of the first lodge, the Surveyor's Lodge, and you can see you've also got some communal kitchen areas, lounge areas, barbecue and so on. So, you know, really beautifully set up, beautifully set up. Right, okay, so day 2 is about 11 kilometres, around 4 hours. And lots of variety on this stage of the hike. So you get eucalypt forests, heathlands, and you also stride out across open moorlands with glimpses of water, obviously, on both sides. You climb up to Arthur's Peak, that's about 300 metres, and you get a view back over Crescent Bay, which you can see in there, in the middle of the screen, and Mount Brown, and the spires of Cape Rail somewhere way out in the distance. Next one, thanks Ben, there we go. So stunning scenery. And again, thanks, Ben. I hope I'm whetting your appetite here for this. Okay.
Right.
And again, thank you, Ben. So this is Munro Camp, the second lodge for the night. It sits in tall eucalypt forest, about 240 metres above the sea cliffs of Munro Bight. You can see people there chilling out on their yoga mats. And it's got views all the way to Cape Hoy. And it's also worth noting at this stage that all of those lodges have a Tasmanian Parks Ranger present to welcome you, get you oriented, and also to brief you on what's ahead. So they're really well looked after.
So what's the accommodation here? Sort of 4 or 2 in a cabin?
Four.
is it?
4 snorers, yeah.
And how many people are in the whole place? Is it big?
I don't know. What would you have at any one time? Probably 30?
Yeah, about that.
Yeah.
About 40.
Yep. But you're all in lodges of 4. Yeah. Okay. Next. So thanks, Julie. They're good questions. And you can see here, these are the cabins. You can see our walking poles there hung up. No macadamia nuts, clearly. And people have made the most of that beautiful facility. There's also a bush shower at this camp. Tassie was in the middle of drought. So we're very lucky we had about 2-minute showers available to us on that day. Yes.
And what about cooking?
Well, glad you asked. So we will have a closer look at the kitchen facilities, which are really, really, really well set up. Really well set up. Okay, spectacular setting. This is the sunrise. The helipad is there. It was like, you know, sun worship really happening. And you can see people were just drinking in this beautiful atmosphere.
So we can fly in.
Well, or fly out, but I don't think you want to be flying out on a helicopter. Yeah. Okay, next one. Thank you. This is now day 3, right? This was a big day, about 19K. Doesn't sound that big, but it was, and was about a solid 8 hours, I reckon, maybe a bit more. Yeah, lots of elevation here. I mean, beautiful tracks, and I'll talk a little bit about the maintenance there in a minute. So this is out and back to Cape Pillar. You leave your day pack, your big backpack, sorry, at Munro Camp, and you take a small day pack just to get you through the loop, and then you come back to Munro. So this is boardwalk and some gravel tracks. Lots of maintenance work underway. And in fact, we were lucky enough to see this helicopter hovering in and around this track. And one of the maintenance workers there was on the ground with sticking plaster, masking tape, putting an X on the ground about the size of a dinner plate. And you watch this helicopter come in with huge baskets or bags of gravel and rocks and so on, landing, and I kid you not, right in the middle of that X. It was just extraordinary to see. So this maintenance bloke, he seemed like a pretty reasonable sort of guy, but he told us he'd actually been left behind by the helicopter 3 times in the past, apparently, because they forgot to pick him up. And he said, well, look, you know, he's pretty laconic. He said, well, there could be worse places to get lost, but I think he would have been pretty pleased to see that helicopter come back for him eventually. They got to Hobart, I think, before they realised, but there you go. So this part of the trek provided, I think, the most beautiful views of the time we spent there. Views across to Tasman Island, and let's pop on to the next slide. Thanks, Chris. So you can see Tasman Island to the right of screen. If we look really carefully, you might be able to just make out the lighthouse there. I'm not sure whether that's better signposted, perhaps. Thanks, Chris. On the next screen. Yeah, that's better. So this lighthouse was built in 1906 and decommissioned in 1977. And in the day or in the night, it could be seen 39 nautical miles away. And there are tales of lighthouse keepers losing their sheep as they disappeared off the edge or down the crevices and cracks. Never been seen again. And light keepers being obligated to have their teeth removed, so to reduce any risk of infection and having to be rescued off the island. So pretty tough gig, hey? They used pigeon posts amongst other means of communication. You can see there's a bit of a ramp. I think they were able to ramp things up from ships, supplies up from ships, but it was a pretty precarious existence, I have to say. That's off, I don't know, where's that map?
Down here.
Cape Miller? Yeah, Cape Pillar, thank you. There we go, Cape Miller. Yeah. The other thing, and we might just move to the next slide, thanks, Chris, is these dolerite columns. And I've never seen dolerite before, but they rise about 300 metres out of the sea. They're the predominant rock form of the Three Capes Walk. And they are created from magma cooling from the outside towards the centre. So these columns form and they absolutely dominate the landscape. Thanks, Chris. Now, this is the blade, and it's a sheer diagonal of dolerite that pierces the cliffs. The ranger in briefing us that night had said, you will see that it has a do not proceed any further notice on it. But he said, don't worry about that. That's just those nervous bureaucrats who are very risk averse. And he said people get up there and get down without too many problems. Has anybody else gone out onto the blade? No? Did you? Yeah. Yeah. Okay, we live to tell the tale.
So when you're talking about Jenny up
This
here,
blade, yeah. So you actually, you climb up here. And
I'm up to the-
yeah, that's it. And you can see a couple of figures up there. But it looks sort of relatively benign there. But there is quite a narrow piece, which is probably no bigger than this table, where you scramble across it, let me tell you. And you stand out there, and I could not be more relieved to get off it and back down. No. Yeah, exactly. So at this point, you double back, you go back to Munro Camp. You pick up your backpack, this is all in the one day, and you proceed to Redacuna Lodge for the final night. By the time we got to the lodge, it was actually starting to get pretty dark and gloomy, and it was really great to see the lodge emerge out of the twilight and to settle in. Okay, kitchen question, here you go. Right, so kind of commercial looking kitchen. Yeah, oh, lots of phone chargers. And every pot and pan and frying pan known to man, I think.
Dehydrated food.
Mm.
Just got it rehydrated.
Yeah. We used just water and boiling water. Yeah,
Yeah.
we ate pretty well.
And it's
Chili con
fats and
carne.
oils.
Yeah, pastas. You can get freeze-dried cheese. Goes well with wine. You know, something for everybody. There's quite a good range of dehydrated food around. Any of the, you know, Kathmandus and so on will have them. Yeah, you buy. And some of our group did their own. But we also had a little bit of a menu that David had sorted out for us, so we weren't all carrying the same food, and we're able to do a sort of mix and match combination of our food as we got through each night. Okay, let's keep going. Okay, so this is us on the day before I think we set off. This is at Redacuna. We're still smiling. We're still together. Well, wait for the last day. And here we go. So at this stage of the walk, you go, it's about 14K, around 6 to 7 hours, and you go up and over Mount Fortescue. which is about 460 metres. And it's a pretty steady climb, but the path is really well constructed, lots of steps. And the landscape changes significantly. It's rainforest, it's sort of much closer to you, tree ferns, eucalyptus. So lots of variety on this trek. This walk, thanks, Chris. I think we might go the last one. Oh, yeah, okay. So on this walk, you also have the option of leaving your pack at a certain point and going out to Cape Pillar. Oh, no, sorry, Cape Howie. But it was too wet, too cold. I was soaked, and all the reports from the incoming trekkers were that you couldn't see much out there anyway on that particular day because the rain and cold had set in well and truly. It's worth noting, just when we talk about leaving backpacks, that the Currawongs from this part of Tasmania haven't yet learnt how to unzip a backpack. So the Currawongs on the overland track, on the other hand, are very adept at doing that. Clearly, they're not talking to the Currawongs on the 3 Capes yet, but they haven't learnt that little trick. So you're quite safe to leave your backpack out there. It's an easy run once you're over Mount Fortescue, and you go down obviously to Fortescue Bay, and you get a complimentary and a very lovely hot shower, which was just the best. Absolutely the best. And there's our churning seas. So the bus picks you up then and takes you back to Port Arthur. I just to sort of try and conclude all of this, and Vanessa, if there's anything I've sort of skimmed over, yeah. I'd really highly recommend this. For me, it was a once in a lifetime opportunity. The path is really well maintained, provides enough challenge, and lots of variety. I think we were really lucky at this time of the year, given how far south we were, to get such good weather. And finally, for me, it gave me the confidence to know I could handle, a bigger backpack. Yeah, with the, the water, the food, the sleeping bag. And there were people carrying much bigger ones than me, but I loved it. Loved every minute of it. I thought it was fantastic. Yeah, yeah. I'm hearing you. I'm hearing you. Some people did going through those little camps. Yeah.
Julie, you were asking about the profile. There's the profile. There's
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
Oh, right.
Yeah.
Not too bad, just that.
And can I ask about the bus? Because I've heard people talk about which bus you book, the early bus or the late bus, depending on your ability to do that last bit of walk.
Yeah, I have a feeling, Vanessa.
I think it was the later bus.
I thought we got the late one. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Finish the walk. Where did the bus get to?
Well, Fortescue Bay is the official finish of the walk.
Up there.
Yeah, up there. And then the bus takes you back across over to Port Arthur, where you pick up your car.
So 4 days of walking, 3 nights.
Yeah,
Yeah.
4 days with different cabins.
48k. 48k.
Yeah. We must have had
Yeah, 8 in a cabin. Okay.
No,
Yeah.
but they,
People on
um,
Zoom. can
I
do
think
this.
there was there 8 in our cabin, Brett?
Okay.
So,
Oh, okay. Yeah.
yeah,
Okay.
so we did an 8
Yeah.
and there was a couple there and they got up before us and they went to bed before us.
Yep.
And we didn't really see them till the last day.
Yeah.
Didn't
Okay.
speak to them. Because we didn't see them. And it turned out they were a really nice couple, come
Ah.
all the way from Brisbane.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
It looks the same.
Hi, Carla.
Oh, just quick, the commercial one you were talking about,
Mm.
the people that were doing that, were these some of the people that you were talking about, Maureen? Were they staying at the same place or were they different cabins? Oh, oh, they're upmarket. Oh, okay.
No.
I
The
think we
the
put-
answer to that was no, there's upmarket accommodation as well.
Well, yeah.
More
Just-
upmarket.
Yeah, much more, much more. But they still snore. Okay, so that's it.
You want to invite the people at the remote end to unmute themselves and
Zoomers.
any questions they've got?
Any questions?
we went at Easter, which was school holidays, so there was lots of families, but everybody was very friendly because you're with the same people all the way through each night,
Mm.
and so you get to talk to the same people.
yeah.
Yeah. Sorry?
No,
So where do you buy dehydrated food?
Online, I think the brand we used, if I'm allowed to say it, was Backcountry. And Dave had also pre-prepared chili con carne, freeze-dried or dehydrated. Just add water. Yeah. Mm.
The question was, where do you get the dehydrated food?
Amazon.
Kathmandu. You can get it from Anaconda, Kathmandu as well.
Yeah.
Or you borrow the dehydrator that Brett and I think Stephen have, and you cook your own casserole and dehydrate it.
Yeah.
Okay, can I stop the recording?
Um,
Oh, we're going to say thank you.
sorry, before.
Little
Yes.
paddy melons in terms of wildlife. Wallabies, yeah. Yeah. Not a lot of bird life either. No snakes. They probably saw us, but we didn't see them. Yep. Yep. Okay. There you go. Thank you.
Okay. I'm standing in front of it. I want to firstly to express my appreciation for Jenny's acknowledgement of the traditional custodians of the land. And also to thank her very much for this presentation that I'm sure made most of the people in this room very envious and wishing they could carry a few more kilos in the right place.
Exactly. Yeah.
So thank you very much, Jenny. It's a
Thanks,
great
Cheryl.
presentation, and thanks,
you.
Vanessa, for coming along too. Have we, they still connected?
It's gone dead. I don't know, the screen's gone off. I don't know what's going on.
In case the people on, sorry. Just a moment there, in case the people on Zoom can still hear us, Dave had a question about whether there would be dinners before the club night at the new venue. You'd like to answer that?
Yep,
Yes.
thanks, Cheryl. So in researching a range of options and landing on the Camberwell Library, I also did a quick search of pubs, and there is one which is about a 5-minute drive called the Palace Hotel, I think. But Bernadette also tells me there's lots of little restaurants around that area. So beautiful.
5 minutes away.
Perfect. There we go. Something for everyone. Got a kitchenette.
That wavelength and take tea and coffee biscuits.
Mm. Yep.
So we might choose a venue, a local venue, and still have a registration for dinner. For the people that want to have dinner beforehand, before we move to the library for the presentation.
Yeah.
Yeah. Any other questions from anybody about whether it's about the presentation or the change of venue or?
Cool.
Okay, well, thank you all very much for coming along.
Thank you.
Been another great presentation. Thanks. Thank you, Chris.
It was. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Just do it. Just do it.
It's coming back on
So
again.
we need to put that on the agenda at some point.
Mm. Yeah, and there is a little window where you put. So Dave buried it all there.
Yeah, we need to, maybe you mentioned something,
Mm.
but I'd like to do it. like, fair.
Yeah.
I just like to.
Yeah.
Okay, you can ask your questions. We can hear you. Sorry, we couldn't see you and everything went off on our screen here. No questions? Thank you for joining us.